Greetings, mobile hunter. Today I'm going to show you a video climbing a split trunk tree that I don't believe we would have got up with climbing sticks. The key to these silent approach steps is to set the step with your foot to make a solid leverage point before actually stepping onto the step. Check this out. Alright, here's a little experiment we're going to do of this tree. I thought this tree looked interesting and like one I'd like to hunt out of, but looked like it's a difficult tree to climb. So I got to looking at how the tree was leaning, and up in this section right here, it looks like it's leaning back that way. But the funny thing is, when you come around and look at it from here, it looks like it's going this way. So the tree looks like it's going both directions. And I actually have a level to tell the way the tree's leaning. So if we look at it this way, we can see that the tree is leaning that way. So typically you would climb on this side of the tree as that tree is leaning that way. So that would be, this is the force side. I wanted to try to climb on the gravity side, just saying I didn't have an option, because if I'm wanting to hunt on this side of the tree, it makes better sense to climb on this back side, because this tree here is kind of in the way if I gotta hunt on this back side here. So we're gonna see how this works to climb this tree on the force or on the gravity side. A buddy of mine was doing some R&D the other day, and he brought up the point that you have to set the step, put a little bit of pressure on it with your foot and set it before you put all your weight on it. And that probably has a lot to do with the shifting and moving, something I never really thought about bringing up. So we're going to try that, really focusing on doing that on the gravity side of the tree with our proper spacing, and see how that works. And we got this funky little area here that's kind of difficult to navigate. So I got these 3 steps up, and then that's my right foot. So then my left foot will be somewhere. I'll try to start my left foot moving over this way a little bit, and then to go around there to go up. So we'll see how it works. Okay, here we are. Kind of like I expected. It's not that bad. I'm on the back side of the lean, and I'm pretty comfortable. I just had to make sure I put my step, I kind of set my step before I stepped on it. And here I am putting up my next 2 steps. Got to that spot where the crotch started, and I actually found a little point of force right there. You'll see that step is actually leaning that way. That's I'm actually using the force on that little bitty nipple. It's kind of interesting, that little spot there where we set that 1 step. But that's one of the benefits of these, placing individual steps. You can put each step where you want it. And then with this next step, I'm almost transitioning to that side of the tree. And then ideally, if this is where, I guess we could hunt there regardless, but we hope that's the force up there. And if that's where we're gonna hunt. If not, we could just move around the tree once you get up that far. It's not a terribly big deal. So we'll see what happens. This ain't so bad so far, but you have to really know how to climb. This is basically a skill. Climbing like this is kind of like rock climbing, and that you don't just go climb a cliff face, and you don't just go climb trees with these without learning the process and how these steps work. Okay, here we are standing on that little part of that crotch, and I had to lower that step. It was up too high, but I'm standing right on the end of that point there with my step, right on the end of that point. And all my weight is on that foot, because this step is not it's not sturdy. I couldn't put all my weight on both of those. So this foot is just hanging out there. All my weight's on this foot, straight up and down on the craziest point on this tree. But that's where all my weight is. My next step is right here. So standing on this step, then I put on my next 2 steps to kind of transition from this face of the tree to, close to 45, around there probably. And so I'm standing on this one. Now when I step on this step, I'm still on the back side of the tree. This is where I've always said not to climb. But I'll get this foot set under the step set under my foot, and then these two look like they're getting lined back out, so we'll see what happens. All right, I've come to a spot here. I just stepped around that one step, and I have to move my lineman's belt. So I was gonna go ahead and up these two, but I gotta move my lineman's belt first. So I'm the very next step, all my weight's on that step, and I'm standing just on that step, the one that looked hairy and it's on the back side of the tree, but if I'm straight up and down on it, it's not that big a deal. This foot is just resting on there, and now I got to take my lineman's belt off to go from where I go to 2 trunks into 1. So this is where you need to have 2 lineman's belts, because this is the most dangerous time is to unhook. Well, here we are. We've made it to the transition where we go to 1 trunk, and we see that we are on the gravity side up here, which is a neat little thing. But we've made the transition from the trunk where we split from 1 into 2 back to 1, and that crazy little part there where the trunks grow out together, make a little point. We made that transition around there from the gravity side up to here, and it wasn't a problem. I was really surprised. The more I use these steps, I'll tell you, the more I love them. They are everything I ever hoped for. All right, we just made this crazy climb on this back side of this tree that splits, and it had this funky little area we had to transition through here. That'd be difficult with climbing sticks, just the way that they seat to the tree. So we're on the back side of this thing. We came up and put a step right on that little point there where it comes off of the tree, where the 2 trunks come together. I set it right on there and stepped on that and stood there and put those other ones up. And then we're deep in the back side here. You can see where that tree's leaning that way. And I don't recommend stepping that way, but they will work that way. You just have to really know what you're doing. And it went great. I couldn't believe, I've always said don't climb this force or the gravity side, but I just did it to see how it would work, because I was talking to a buddy of mine using the steps, and he put a little bit of, he said that you have to make sure you put your weight down into it somewhat to kind of set the step before you actually step on it. And I thought, wow, that's a great point that I've done, but I never really cognitively did it. It was just something I naturally did. And to show you the reason why you can't climb on the gravity side, why it's not ideal, as you can see that tree's leaning this way, and that makes the step, when it's going against the tree, it goes against the tree that way. And there's nothing, you can't keep the step from pulling out this way on that side. And that's the same with climbing sticks or anything on the tree. And if you do get something to stay real tight like that, you're going to be leaning off the tree, and that's not going to be comfortable. So ideally you don't climb on the gravity side, but you can. It's just not the easiest way to do it. And after this little test here and the way these things went, I'd say these things I'm definitely happy with them. Now, I wouldn't recommend something like this, and the reason was coming down. Going up was fine, it was solid as could be. Coming back down, when I got to this point, my step was over here, and there wasn't hardly anything for me to get it on, and it got into this area, and there's just, it's an impression. But I stepped on it, and it held me. But it was very uncomfortable, and it was quite possibly it could have flipped over. But I stepped on it, and then I got back down to this step, and then I repositioned that one back to where I wanted it. Not that I needed it, but that was just what I was able to do.